I am resident of Colorway for YouTube. Joel Says it's my buddy Gordon Dymowski. We are here to review Out of the Past, which Kirk Douglas, Robert
Robert Mitchum.
Mitchum, yeah, I almost said Mitchell Ryan, though they were in a movie together.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I could see Mitchell Ryan if this movie had been made a few years later. He could
yeah,
have played that role.
yeah, he could have. But they're not here. Uh, I own this on Blu-ray. It's a fun movie. Uh, Robert Mitchum plays a guy who appears to be a gas station, who owns his own gas station, but he has a secret identity, which he used to be a detective. First of all, when did you first see this, and what did you think of this movie? Because it felt so different than a lot of the noirs I'd seen prior.
Well, I first saw this in high school because there was a remake at the time called Against All Odds. And um the at the time when I saw Against All Odds, and I haven't rewatched it, so I don't know if my mind would change, but I thought the only good thing about that movie was the theme song by Phil Collins.
Yeah.
And and I know some of you are thinking, oh, you think Phil Collins is cool? Hey, you know what? All of you, no matter what you say, you do have a copy of Phil Collins' greatest hits, including you. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, Matt. Yeah, Matt. Just cough up. But anyway, back to the movie. But I had heard that Against All Odds was a remake of this other film called Out of the Past. So I saw Out of the Past and enjoyed it. Um, and then for some reason I didn't get to watch it while I was in college while I was watching Noir.
Mhm.
Um, and so when you suggested this, it's like, oh, cool. This is really, I thought this was a really good idea. And I have a question for you, Jewel.
Mhm.
Now, according to the introductory credits, this is based on a novel called Build Your Gallows High. Now, isn't wouldn't that make a really cool title for a Western?
Yes, it would. Considering they do, there's a western called Hannum High. Yeah.
Hmm. Hang 'em high, then build your gallows high.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
then throw your gallows in a kit bag and smile, smile, smile. I mean, there's your trilogy right there.
Yeah, you're right. I do think that with this movie too, Kirk Douglas plays such an interesting mob boss, we'll say. I mean, because that's sort of what he's doing here.
Hmm.
But he's such a laid back. You don't. He's almost nice, but then it's like you're waiting for like the sucker punch or like, but it's his wife, if you will. That's also she's not quite the damsel she appears to be.
Well, I don't know if she's his wife so much as like his, you know, lady in waiting
Yeah.
to be polite about it. And the plot is Mitchum is in a small town
Hmm.
and he owns a gas station and he's dating a local girl and he tells her about his um his past because there's someone from his past comes up and says, "Hey, Kirk Douglas wants you to work with him." And basically he was sent to get this woman who it's hinted that she was involved with Kirk Douglas and she stole $40,000 from him and he decides to let her go. Except that at one point after all this is done, he decides to go to Kirk Douglas and Kirk is like, "Okay, I want you to go to San Francisco to get some tax papers for me." And it turns out he gets involved with another woman who's a secretary of, I think it's a lawyer who you know, and it's obvious it's a frame up because like Robert Mitchum, you don't mess with him. Like, you know what I mean? He's the kind, in real life, I think he was arrested for like marijuana possession, which in the 50s was like, ooh, you might as well be hopped up on the crack rock. And Mitchum's like, okay, yeah, I got arrested. Deal with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so things progress and he gets back involved with this woman and You mentioned that it was kind of not unlike any other noir, and I think part of it is that it isn't the in most noir, it's the conflict is through action. It's like, hey, hey, Jewel, I don't like you. You don't like me. It's like, it's like maybe one or two levels before smack talk before a wrestling match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like okay, Jewel, you want to come after me? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
no, going, you come after me. Here,
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas and Robert Mitchum do a really great job of the verbal jousting is there, but they act the tension. They don't speak the tension. And I
Yeah.
think that's what helps it is that it's a very um if you're looking for kind of that knife's edge kind of, an argument going to break into a fist fight, you're not getting that. What you're getting is the atmosphere and the acting. Now, Jacques Tourneur, was he the one who produced the Val Lewton movies, or am I thinking about somebody else?
And you're not too far off. Luton produced them.
Oh,
Turner directed.
okay. So I'm okay. So I'm flipping the order. But I think here it helps because in something like The Seventh Victim, which I thought was an okay movie, I
Hmm.
think if the supernatural devil worshippers had been presented as say a a secret criminal society, which
Hmm.
existed, I think it would have felt a little bit more towards noir. And I think that, Luton was all about shadows and hinting. And here, Tournier actually applies those principles in practice because it's not just about, that visible tension in guns. It's all about the emotional and the play and counterplay. Like I would really, there's part of me that wishes we could go into the t band a parallel time where Turner lived long enough to direct episode of Dark Shadows, especially the early black and white stuff, or even
Yeah.
some of the Barnabas stuff, because that would have been interesting.
Yeah, because what Turner does really well with cameras and stuff is and especially when he's working with producers like Luton and even this, he does such a great job of not just using light and shadow, but he lets the actors go. He doesn't try to interfere with them from what I've seen of him. He doesn't try to like suggest anything. He lets them act out what's in front of them. And what's so great about this is you're right. Douglas and Mitchum, they're talking, and there's no when there's a fist fight in this movie, it just goes, it explodes almost, and it's so good. The choreography is so good in this noir movie. The fist fights, it's just like you like I was not expecting when I first watched this, the fist fight with the two detectives, the two partners in the cabin. It just explodes, but it made sense.
Yeah, or there's a later scene where it's with the deaf and dumb kid,
Hmm.
and you think he's leading Robert Mitchum into a trap. But what he does is he takes his little his fishing pole, he hooks the guy who's about to shoot him and pulls him down into the river. And I think that's you know, I think Turner does a really good job with misdirection in terms of you think you know where it's going, but it's not. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, like towards the end where the one guy who's been sweet on the girl that Mitchum has been seeing, he's like, he tells Robert Mitchum, look, I've loved this girl ever since I was fixing her roller skates. You know, you're not going to hurt her. I will make sure that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's it's good to watch because a lot of noir, especially since right in the late 40s, there's like an explosion of it because it was cheap to make. There's even a whole series of films that were made on what was called Poverty Row, which was like it's like the basically it's the equivalent of, hey Jewel, you and I, we should form a movie studio. And the budget for movies, well, have Julie look in the couch cushion. Okay, we got 75 cents. Yeah, we're doing a noir film. That kind of thing. But but I think this is one where it's a really good exercise, and you don't need to throw every single cliche in. It's a very, I was surprised at how moody this movie was without being obnoxious about it.
Yep, yep. And I think it's because of two reasons. One, you had the act, you had Mitchum, who by this time had been in some noir movies and been in different war movies as well. And him and Kirk Douglas are very experienced actors. At least by this point, Douglas had been in some movies, and you had a very good cast, a great
Hmm.
cast who knew what they were doing. I mean, because Mitchum's going to be in one of my favorite noir movies. I'm sure you've seen this is where he plays the fake preacher, and it's just
Yeah,
like,
Night of the Hunter, we discussed that
yep,
like a year or so ago.
yeah, and it's such a great another great masterpiece that's really well done. With here, it, it's the story of his past that's really intriguing that he fell for this other woman. And when you finally get caught up with Kirk Douglas's character, the other shoe drops because the woman he was in love with was the man's, whatever girlfriend, whatever she was to him. Here she comes, and now, okay, now you have to work for me because she's told him everything. This woman, I mean, you could call her whatever you want. I necessarily wouldn't call her a black widow because she's not married to the guy, but she's definitely a femme fatale, if you will, to
Yeah,
the guy.
Femme Fatale, I think is that appropriate.
Yeah, yeah, and she does a great job here. The actress who played, I'm gonna sorry, I had to look real
Hmm.
quick, but yeah, Jane Greer, I think Jane
Yeah,
Greer.
Jane
Sorry,
Greer.
Jane Greer, who played the femme fatale. Great, beautiful looking woman, and very Robert Mitchum sells his ass off that he's in love with her. Robert Mitchum could read from a phone book. I mean, he's that good.
Hmm.
Look at Kirk Douglas, because Kirk Douglas has been in his going to be in roles a little later that are similar to this as well. But he's playing more of a gangster role, which I do like him in because I didn't most of the Kirk Douglas movies I saw later didn't necessarily put him in that kind of situation
Well,
as an actor.
and I think too, what also helps is that Mitchum and Douglas were at this time there's a wave of they were like the initial actors who kind of didn't quite fit the studio system because, and I think that it shows in their selection of roles and how they approached, how they approached not just what they did, but kind of their philosophy of doing it. I mean, the fact that Mitchum worked, both of them worked well into old age. And I mean, Douglas passed away when he was like 102. Like these were guys I think there's something to the idea that, um, you can tell that the Hays Code they really were trying to. It seemed like they were maybe one of the producers didn't let them push against the Hays Code because you know what Jane Greer is, but it's never said out loud.
Yeah,
And there's the obligatory, okay, evil must go published, so get punished. So Robert Mitchum gets shot, and then the car drives into the police car. But yeah, I think that's the great thing about noir is that it's very easy to when you're talking about movies, any kind of movies, to start throwing in, kind of intellectual and academic responses to it because it's, like the Western is almost always like an allegory for America or an allegory for moral conflict. Science fiction is about escapism and impact on the present. Horror is, usually a commentary. With noir, you still get that, but they're very direct movies. Like you're very like um they're very straightforward that yes, you can analyze them, but I think they're also good for just being they are what they are, if that makes sense.
and I got a review up earlier of The Great Silence,
Hmm.
which has an ambiguous ending. Another reason I like this movie is because it has a bit of an ambiguous ending.
Hmm.
Robert Mitchum's character dies. It doesn't play it safe. That's what I like most about this. This movie, throughout, including its ending, is never playing it safe.
Yeah, and even as I'm watching it, it's like I'm remarking at how, oh wait, and it doesn't it manages to be surprising without I'm going to use a movie that seems unrelated but that does everything wrong. And that is Bruce Almighty.
Mhm.
It's where Jim Carrey is like God for a day.
Yeah,
So like you watch that and every time every scene you can see the punchline in the setup. It's like, oh, okay. Jim Carrey hears all these wishes, so he's going to write them on sticky notes. Well, guess what? His entire desk next, I think, oh, okay, so his desk is going to be covered with sticky notes. Spoiler, it is. Um, and it's funny because the two guys who wrote it were part of a documentary called Tales from the Script, and they're talking about how they were bragging and they were bragging about how not only did this go well, but they thought they had the second script that was going to do well, and it did nothing. And um, I just want to say the person who wrote this script was a professional screenwriter. The people who wrote Bruce Almighty were hacks. But I think that's a great thing about this film because the guy who I forget who wrote it, but he was a novelist and a screenwriter, and he based the screenplay on his novel. And I think his pen name was Jeffrey Holmes, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. And his real name is Daniel Mainward.
Hmm.
But you're right. Yes, his pen name is Jeffrey Holmes. Holmes,
Yeah,
yes.
and that's a sign that a writer knows what he's doing and that a director knows what they're doing, is that the plot twists never seem like it never seems like, okay, I'm at page such and such. I need to throw a plot twist here.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, we'll just throw that in.
yeah. The real twist in this movie comes not even halfway in when you see the girl return to Kirk Douglas is walking behind toward uh, Robert Mitchum's character. You're like, oh shit. Because what? Because he realizes, okay, I've been hoodwinked. I've been hoodwinked here,
Hmm.
and Mitchum's character realizes it right away. It's this character. This movie does not. It doesn't talk down to its audience. It's very smartly done with its storytelling from start to fit. How Robert Mitchum's character falls for her, how for those who've never seen this, he's trying to mislead. He's misleading Kirk Douglas's character about, oh, she was here but she's gone. I missed her. She gave me the slip. He's giving him this sort of story, and Kirk Douglas, he's like, hey, you want to go down by the boats and see that she left, check with the captain. And then he just leaves because it's like, okay, Robert Mitchum caused him to buy it until he sees his old partner I think he's placing a bet at a track or something.
Hmm.
And his partner does follow him. He gives his partner to somebody, he forgets about her, and his partner follows her.
Hmm.
That's how well paced and good this movie is because it gets into that layered storytelling of here's a guy who, yes, he remembered about himself, but he forgot about her to the point of he followed her. And one of the scenes that really shocked, we know she shot her boyfriend, Kirk Douglas's character, but when she shoots the detective was really shocking. What did you think of
Well, I think it was surprising, and I think
it?
part of it was they needed a way to, um, again, it's that old Hays Code of evil must not, evil has to be punished,
Yeah,
and so I think it seems a little silly because you're thinking, okay, he's driving the car. Do you really want to shoot him in the gut at that point? Because it's not like she puts the gun to his head or even aims at his chest. It's very clear she's kind of reaching to, um, and I think, but what we also learned is that he had called and somebody is shooting a machine gun at her. So it was surprising. I think it's interesting too because like Mitchum, even though he's not a good guy in the traditional sense, but he is like your the audience identification member because we what we think is, hey, he's left a life of crime to settle down. He's called back, and what we kind of realize is, well, okay, he may have left it, but now he realizes that he's stuck in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the second time around, he's like, because when he claimed at one point when she leaves in Mexico, he tells Kirk Douglas, "Well, here's your $5,000 back. I don't like spending your money."
Right.
And then, seen later, when he's brought back, Kirk Douglas says, "You know, I'll give you, you don't get to quit on me." And I think that's where you know, it's I think and I think that's one of the reasons why I like noir so much is that it's interesting to see. I think you get much more fascinating examinations of character. Even if you're dealing with uh low life scum and people who are morally compromised, because you see how they function. Um and you learn how they do it. It's like did we ever watch Kiss Me Deadly?
Yeah, with it was the written by Vicky Spillane.
Yes.
Yeah, we did that on here. Me, you, and Patrick.
Okay. The only reason I ask is that's another example of like, the even though in the books Spillane is much more of an independent, justice guy who works with the police, in that film he's basically just he's a divorce PI. He's kind of a little scummy. That's
Yeah,
not a bad thing for
yeah,
that movie. And even Spillane hated it because it's like, hey, what are you doing with my character? But then I think that's why noir works, is that you can get really seedy and dark. But the great thing about it is like, if you want to make something more horrific, you throw it in shadows. There's a lot of smoking in this movie because, the smoke adds that kind of little bit of an atmosphere, um, as well as carcinogens, but it was the 1940s. They didn't know that stuff. Don't at me. Um, and I think too, there's something with this movie. Yeah, I know a lot of people called it the greatest noir ever made, which um, I think there are a series of movies that if you put them together would always be the greatest noir ever made. You know what I mean? I don't think you can do like a one, two, three. They don't have to be side by side. But I think this really does a good job in revealing character. And again, noir is relatively low budget because, okay, you black and white film, use of shadows and lighting. Hey, if it rains, the streets are wet, additional atmosphere. Um, and you can talk about things in subtext that like now, um, like the remake. I watched the trailer for the remake, and it's like, instead of being a detective, the lead played by Jeff Bridges is a football player. The Kirk Douglas role is played by a very coked out James Woods, which, okay, you know, I mean, James Woods coked out, that's some people's idea of fun. I think the only good role he did was in Videodrome, but hey, that's on me. Well, that My Name is Bill W., but back to Out of the Past.
yeah,
I need to
yeah.
focus. We need to focus. And by we,
Well,
I mean I.
well, here's the thing too. Like, I think the reason some remakes don't necessarily live up, some of them can be just miscast, and some of them just aren't as what maybe as well thought out as the what the original intent of this movie was
Yeah.
and is. And that just happens. But I do think too, something we've all touched upon is do we all want remakes to be exactly like the original? No, no, because what's the point in that, right? Like a great example. I I don't know how you feel about it. I enjoyed Rob's Halloween, like
Mhm.
2007. I thought it was jarringly different than John's. And again, a remake should be where Gus Van Sant's Psycho. is just a shot for shot clone.
Hmm. Well, with Rob Zombie's Halloween, I mean, I thought it was okay,
Yeah,
but what I liked about it was that Rob Zombie was doing something you never did in a Halloween movie, which is Michael Myers as a character and human being versus Michael Myers as a force of nature. Whether we can argue whether he did a good job with that or
right,
whether it's effective, but at least he had an original idea about it. Gus Van Sant, I'm still trying to, I you know, I think you know, I think Gus one, why do shot for shot? Like at
right.
least Brian De Palma went through his Hitchcock phase, but he did it as more of a he found other plots to do. And
Yeah.
secondly, why would you hire Vince Vaughn to play Norman Bates? I mean, why would you hire Vince Vaughn at all if he's not playing the wise ass smart guy? You know. But yeah, but no, I agree with you on that shot by shot for Psycho because it's like, you know, I'm sure I hope that after that, uh, Alfred Hitchcock rose from his grave and started haunting Van Zandt, or at least called some attorneys to sue him for plagiarism.
I think that's the thing too. Like with this movie, you can look at it and see they were going for something because again, other noir movies had been made prior to this,
Hmm.
and yet it stands on its own as something so original because that's something I've talked about with horror. Where okay, if you make a movie today and you see all these other movies out there, you can't do copy and paste story wise what those other movies have done because your movie isn't going to be original. Whereas there had been other noir movies made prior to this, and they come back with this. It's something that has an excellent cast. It's completely different than what you saw before, and it has these great hooks where you're not expecting these things. Like you said, the boy with the fishing rod, the deaf boy with the fishing rod pulling Joe into the water and killing him. And I love Robert Mitchum's line is he was in the water when I
Yeah,
discovered, right?
yeah,
Which is
yeah.
so
Because Robert Mitchum always comes across bodies in water. You know,
yes,
that's the kind of guy he is. Yeah, and it's a shame. And I know I'm going to sound very old fogey-ish. Um, But like it's a shame now that everything is so driven by intellectual property and doing remakes in the same. I mean, at least against all odds, um, you know, for all its faults, and again, I've only seen it in high school and they didn't care for it. But I think it's because the other thing is that the director, Taylor Hackford, also tended to have a very distinct, very bland style, in my opinion. But we're not talking about Taylor Hackford. And it's also why, like, when we're talking about originality in movies and writing, it's like, again, I'm going to go a little bit on my anti-AI rant because um, there's so many people, and I know there have been conversations about, well, we can use AI to recreate actors and do all that and da 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 da. And it's like, well, you're really not getting the actor or the performance. What you're getting is a bad copy. Um, when you're using when you're using generative AI to create something, like if you're creating, say, like a generic form, that's one thing because okay, it pulls from different forms and you can't really be creative if you're doing like an invoice or a shop, or a shopping list. Um, and I had this conversation with some, as I'm networking for further work, I'm networking to get more work as a writer. And, whenever I've been, I'm usually asked, do I use Chat GPT in my writing? And I do the very vague, well, I use some AI tools in my writing, but I'm not dependent on them. Do you use Chat GPT? No, it sucks rubber donkey lungs. I mean, and then they'll go, well, don't you spend time like writing it and putting in your thoughts and teaching it how to think like you? Well, and I really want to I have to restrain myself because I want to tell them to do something that is anatomically impossible. But then I always want to argue, well, why should I put my thoughts into a software that's just going to spit out what it thinks I want when I can get when I can use the same keyboard, same laptop, open up like say LibreOffice or Microsoft Word and start typing those ideas out there. I mean, you know, creativity is in everyone. And I think that you can do, and I think that in talking about this movie, I think it's only been remade the one time. I'm sure there's probably other variations of this film, but I think one of the things film does really well is it just that consistency of tone and the way that it surprises you without going, here it comes, hey, plot twist.
I was seeing my daughter, so my apologies. But you're right. I agree with you because, as speaking as a writer as well, when you come up with an idea or when an idea hits you, you want to get that. You don't want to put your idea into some machine that's going to spit out what you, like you said, what you think you want. You want to put, okay, okay, for example, you know where, when you come up with a character and you come up with where you want to start your story, you know where you want to start your story, what you
Yeah,
want that setting to look like. So why trust an AI machine to
yeah.
handle
And
that where you already have it in your head?
right. And the way I see it is that a lot of times hear people say AI is not a tool, it's a thought partner. AI is a tool, and it's in certain use cases it's good. So I don't want to be like, all AI is bad. But and I know at least one person who uses AI to help her craft music.
You know,
Catherine, I'm talking about you. Yes, I'm calling you out. So, you know, hi, love you. But anyway, um, our next phone call is be very interesting. But I, I think that with this movie in particular, I think it is just so good because it does feel like it feels very original, even though it's been around forever. And I'm sure if I decide to watch it again tomorrow, it's going to be like, oh yeah, this is, I haven't seen this movie since high school, and it's like it's better than I remember it. Not that it was bad back then, but it was like, 40 years on, it's like watching a whole new movie.
yeah, it really is. And I think what I like most is too with this movie. My favorite scene prior to the ending is when they're in the car and they're driving to the ambush. They're driving to where the guns are going to shoot him because he knows. I think by the time I think Robert Mitchum character realizes, okay, this is over. You know,
Hmm. Yeah,
it's
and I mean, I think Robert Mitchum's good in anything.
yes, yes,
I mean, he was on, I think, and I know we'd have to look, um, I have to look on Wikipedia for the exact date, but I remember seeing him on Saturday Night Live, and this was a time where Saturday Night Live, it was like nobody wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. You know what I mean? It was like unless you were selling a movie or like, it's like I'm sure Robert Mitchum was like, okay, oh wait, I need money for bourbon. Yeah, I'll do it. What the hell?
Did you know originally he did a voiceover for Tombstone, but
Hmm.
he was supposed to be physically in Tombstone, but had gotten injured.
Hmm. Yeah, I
That
knew. Yeah, I knew. Yeah, because I was watched it about. It was actually like a few weeks before Kilmer died because it was on Tubi, and I heard the voiceover and thought, is that Robert Mitchum?
yeah,
And it's like, oh yeah, it is. Yeah, he was a
yeah,
guy who kept working like well into like he's one of those guys who, if he hadn't died, I'm sure he'd still be working.
yeah. Yes, he does appear in the Cape Fear remake.
Mhm.
I own the original Cape Fear, so which is another great Robert Mitchum you know, a
Mhm.
movie that was remade in the nine in nine, if you will, with Robert De Niro as. the
Yeah, and
full-blooded
Cape Fear
maniacs.
though, I think Cape Fear's one where it's like you could I think Scorsese did a lot more with he did a really interesting variation on the
Yeah,
material.
yeah. And he didn't clone the original. It's exactly. You know what I mean? He did his, like you were saying, he did his own thing.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
and I think yeah, I'm wondering if there's such a thing as a bad Robert Mitchum performance.
Yeah. I don't, what's your favorite scene in this movie?
Ooh, I love the one where he's in San Francisco and he's talking to it's like the Eels and his secretary.
Yes.
Secretary is saying all that. She goes off, and Mitchum's like, hey, yeah, I know this is a frame up. Yeah, they want me to get my fingerprints all over the place. Because, it's like, okay, he's not, in most noir, the lead is sometimes the sap and
Yeah.
that things happen. In this, Mitchum is like, yeah, I know I'm the sap, but I'm going to make it tough for them. I'm going to give them a hard time.
Yeah. It's now. Can I tell you who I think would make a really good Joe Cardona if they ever did another Shadow movie?
Mitchum is Cardona?
No, well, who would make one? Uh, I would pick Jeffrey Donovan.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because he does have that. Like I've seen him on Burn Notice and some other. He was
Yeah,
actually one of the. I think he was one of I think he did when Law and Order, the original Law and Order was restarted a few years ago. I think he was one of the original cops.
yeah,
But that's like, being. Um, I think acting on any of the American Law and Order franchises is probably the current Law and Order franchises is probably very easy because you either have to be just like dull or over the top. There's like no, you know, um, to quote Alan, you don't watch Law and Order for the plot. You watch it to watch New York actors. And
yes,
Donovan was good, and it's like they replaced him with Reed Scott, who's a little bit more like, stereotypical edgy cop.
yeah, yeah.
Now, a really good show for those of you who are watching, and for you, Jewel, is Law and Order Toronto Criminal Intent. Um, it's you can find it on the CW app, and if you use your Google phone, you can actually find it on the web. The CW um, got the American broadcasting rights, so they're up to episode 9 of
Yeah.
season 1. So if you want to see episodes about a crypto guy getting killed, um, grocery price fixing, um, uh, hockey, murder in a hockey league. Um, it's really good because it's like it uses Toronto, and I'm going to say, and Jewel, if you watch it, watch for the lead, the character of Graf, played by Aiden Young.
Mhm.
If you watch a couple of episodes, we can have this conversation. We'll bring in Patrick and Ellen and other dark shadows. He would be my nomination for a new Barnabas, but I'd like your take on that.
Where can I find this?
I'll do it's on the CW. I will find the link and send it to you via Messenger.
Sure, sure. I'll give it a watch, man. I'll watch anything. You know that. Uh,
Oh, I know, but I also want you to be I also want you as I'm bringing this because I know like at one point I would be like, "Hey, Jewel, you should watch more Guillermo del Toro," and I want to respect that. You know, um, I, 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 um, but I don't want to. I mean, the only Guillermo del Toro film that I would probably have you watch is Pacific Rim, because it's guys running giant robot suits beating up kaiju. I
yes,
figured that
yes.
would be, nothing wrong with was it Crimson Pike? The one
Peak,
that Patrick introduced.
Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak.
Yes, yes.
I enjoyed that film. I know
Yeah.
you didn't.
Right,
I
right.
haven't seen the new Frankenstein movie because I think there are too many damn Frankenstein movies already. But that's a personal quirk. But I will send you this link. If you like it, great. If not, I will not be offended. But yeah,
N-
I would have had you do Pacific Rim because I figured what would Jewel enjoy? Giant
What?
robots beating up kaiju. That to me is a jewel movie.
Well, have you ever? Well, I am a tiny bit of a fan of Mech Assault and Mech Warrior.
Hmm.
Like that's like you're in giant robots, you're fighting other
Hmm.
giant robots.
Yeah,
So
it's yeah, it comes from a I am a big fan of what's known as tokusatsu, which is
yeah,
and it's kind of the Japanese prelude to like your big Voltron mega things. It's basically um all practical effects, guys in big suits beating each other up on smaller sets. It's we also and I actually wrote an essay about this for a book. Um I'll have to send we should do a group discussion on the Space Giants, which is this really weird show from the 70s. They bought this Japanese show, which is an adaptation of a manga.
okay,
They wrote completely new scripts. And if you watch it, it's like it's one of those shows where and I apologize for those watching. Don't worry, we'll get back to Out of the Past in a moment.
yeah,
Please bear with me. And it's one of these really weird things where you can tell that the guys were not okay, so like it's basically it's just it's weird one surrealistically because of the costuming because it's like you could tell they were just reaching into picking up random things. But at one point, the big bad goes to an Earthman and says, "You're a PR professional. I want you to let everyone know that that I'm taking over the planet, as you do when you're taking over the planet." It's not like this, like it's like most wrestlers are like if they're going to if they're going to say like if you and I were wrestlers and
yeah,
we're trying to build up the rivalry. It's not going to be like a Jewel, here's my press release announcing that I will be doing grievous bodily harm to you. And like, oh, thank you, Gordon. Well, look, here is your information packet about to help you prepare for our oncoming bout. Like that would never happen. We'd be in each other's faces.
yeah. You cut your own promo. You don't give it to somebody else, right?
Right.
Um, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So yeah, back to Out of the Past, man. I mean, what is your favorite Turner directed movie? Jeffrey Stern.
I'd have to say this one.
Yeah, it is really good. I lo- I do like this one. I really love what he did with Night of the Demon, which I get it's horror, you know what I mean, but he did a really good job with the cinematography and the storytelling. I think there was a bit of studio interference with it. I can't remember.
Well, with Night of the Demon, it's one of those things where it was it was released in two variations of names on the US and the
Yeah,
UK, and I'm
yeah,
not sure which is which. One's Night and one's Curse.
yep,
If I
uh,
remember correctly, Night has some special effect sequences where you actually see the demon,
yep,
and Curse does not. And I think Curse was for the Night was the one without it because they thought it works much effectively. And Curse has it, and they're not bad, but it's even the original the actors and the directors were like, no, 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 keep the night cut. And I've actually seen both cuts, and it's like it's a movie that works both ways. So I would say that would be like number two because even though there's interference, it still works as a whole. It's not like you're inserting scenes just for the sake of inserting scenes or it, there's nothing thrown off. So, yeah, I think well, yeah, that would be my number two is either Night or Curse of the Demon.
yeah. Yeah, this is my number two. This movie here, I own it on Blu-ray. It's really good.
Hmm.
Obviously, number three would be Cat People because him and Val Lewton teamed up really well.
Hmm.
But it wasn't the only Lewton movie he directed either. So there is that. Uh, Leopard Man's a bit of a noir mystery, a bit. For those who've never watched it, it's really interesting. So what do you give this movie? I give it a 10.
Easily a 10.
Yeah. Oh Lord. It just from start to finish, you gotta go watch this movie because it's so good. and you get it's not a noir movie you'd seen before. It's a noir movie you could see and go, man, that's really different than what had been done. So yeah. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
Nope, nope, just this is a great movie. Um, Go to your local library to check it out. Track it down on streaming. I don't think it's available anywhere like on Tubi. So find it, stream it, enjoy it.
You can find this on YouTube, but I recommend go buy the Blu-ray because
Yeah,
it's worth owning.
yeah, just buy the Blu-ray. If you've got a library and can see it on DVD, do that. Support your local library.
Yeah, yeah, because libraries do have a lot of old movies in just lying around,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, and also some libraries have access to there's one service called Canopy, which is basically free streaming with your library card. So you can check that out. And it looks like, oh, I think Jewel has turned off his camera and muted. So, oh boy. Let's see. What can I do to entertain you
Why?
people? Oh, there you are. Sorry about that. I just
It's
wanted
it
to.
it's okay. I was just link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page and website will be in the description box. Can you make me some food? Yes. Have a good night, Gordon.
Good night.
Bye bye.